please, sir.
Yes, please.
So the $8.4 million cut at under the zero scenario, how convinced are you that that can be done without damaging CPS?
Well, certainly there'll be some damage. There'll be some damage to all of these cuts, and that's what we need to remember, is that all of these things have implications and all of these things have damage. The question is, what kind of damage can we live with? So this morning I asked the chief how awful this would be, and some of my colleagues thought that was a softball. In fact, it was the opposite of that. I was trying to get him to say, look, can you live with this? Obviously there's going to be some cuts, but how much impact is that going to have on people's safety and on people's lives? Because ultimately, police is the largest budget, and the analogy that I would give you is the healthcare budget in the provincial and federal governments. If you're always protecting the healthcare budget, then it grows to a larger and larger percentage of your operating budget. And we don't want to end up in that kind of situation with police. We heard an idea today on the floor of council that we should have a lockbox around essential services and we're not allowed to touch that budget. That is the worst possible idea because it doesn't allow you to have any incentives to manage your costs. And so we need to be able to manage costs very well. And frankly, the police have not had to deal with cost reductions to the same extent as others, which is fine because they're an important service. But yesterday some folks said, oh, you're cutting those essential services first. That's actually not true. We're cutting everyone else, the smaller departments, by much more in order to protect police and fire as much as we can.
Can you clarify the point in terms of how much the police have given up? Are they actually farther behind than where they were in 2018 or 2017?
That was the question I asked right at the end, and unfortunately we didn't have the numbers handy. Remember, there have been salary increases, there have been adjustments. For example, we heard from the fire department today that they received, something like a $15 million increase in the last year. It all went to salary adjustments, but they did receive an increase. So I think it's important for us to know the actual numbers, and I just didn't have those handy.
When you talk about other budgets making up some of the shortfall as a result of the provincial cuts, to what extent are other budgets making up that shortfall? I think you had some proportional figures there.
Yeah, so the critical issue here that's important to remember is that while the province kept the grants the same, the policing grants the same, their clawbacks are the same number as if they had reduced the grants by a third, a 33% cut to policing grants in the city of Calgary. That's a very big number. And so that's $13 million roughly a year, which in our 1.5 scenario we have made up elsewhere in the city. So if you were to apply the cuts that we've made proportionally since July and now, back of the envelope math would suggest that the city has covered about a $26 million shortfall in other departments for the police if the police takes an $8 million cut and we go to 0%. If we go to 0% and the police don't take the $8 million cut, then obviously that's $8 million more. So, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but about $33 or $34 million.
So is the timing not right to be dealing with the police budget when their service review comes up in June? So those numbers could change things, couldn't they?
That's a very good question. Most other large departments in the city have gone through a zero-based review program where they've found cuts and efficiencies and generally cash savings. The police are just now going through that process. They use a different name for it, but they're going through it now, and they're expecting some results in June. So I anticipate their budget submission for next year will reflect those service adjustments. The question is what to do now, and that's what council is grappling with today.
So after everything you heard this morning from the chief and his other partners at the table, is 8.4 in your mind too far, or are you thinking, yeah, they can take more, but it shouldn't be as much as 8.4?
Well, look, I'll remind everyone that in the $5 a month scenario and in the $2.50 a month scenario, the police don't get any cuts at all. And in fact, they get a $13 million increase to make up for the provincial cut. It's only in the 0% scenario, the tax-free scenario, that the police will be asked to take a small share of that cut. And ultimately, that's for council to decide if they'd rather have a small tax increase or rather subject the police to a cut. And that's a pretty stark decision they've got to make. Okay, thank you.